The Supreme Court is handing a victory to Democrats in Pennsylvania after a week of legal losses for the party in battleground states. The Supreme Court is declining to weigh in before the election on Republicans' request to block the state's three-day window for mail ballots to arrive after Election Day. The court ruled 5-3 without newly confirmed Justice Amy Coney Barrett, but the door was left open for her to rule in future election cases. On Monday, the Supreme Court rejected efforts to extend Wisconsin's deadline for counting absentee ballots. Then on Tuesday, a Michigan judge reversed a ban on openly carrying guns within 100 feet of polling places on Election Day. State officials implemented the policy to prevent potential voter intimidation or harassment. The judge stated the policy violated state rules under the Second Amendment. Michigan's Democratic Attorney General plans to appeal the decision. And the Supreme Court of Texas upheld the Republican governor's order limiting Texas counties to only one absentee ballot drop-off location. The move disproportionately impacts larger urban counties, but the scope is somewhat limited. Texas has some of the strictest requirements to qualify for an absentee ballot. The Lone Star State is already past 90% of its total 2016 turnout, the highest turnout in the country so far. Democrats did score a victory Tuesday in South Carolina, where Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is fighting to keep his seat. A federal judge ordered counties to stop rejecting absentee ballots if a voter's signature appears not to match the one on file. A similar measure was upheld in Pennsylvania last week. It is a lot to keep track of nationwide, which is why we are bringing in Rachel Glickhouse from ProPublica's Electionland project. It's a collaboration with over 150 newsrooms to track voting problems across the country. Rachel, welcome. It's good to have you with us because there is a lot to sort through. So first of all, according to the New York Times, there have been more than 300 lawsuits over voting rules across 44 states this election. Is there still uncertainty about voting just 6 days from Election Day?
There absolutely is. And we have been tracking issues that voters have been reporting to us and have been anxious and concerned about. We're working with 150 newsrooms around the country to report these issues out. And I would say that one of the things we're seeing most frequently, particularly during the early voting period, is concerns about absentee and mail-in voting, what the rules are, how to return those ballots if they don't want to return them by mail, what they need to do if there's a problem with those ballots, like a witness signature issue or a signature match issue with the signature that they put on the ballot. We also have seen issues that are boiled down to things as simple as weather. So in some states that are very humid, like Florida and states along the East Coast, some voters have reported that their return envelopes have been arriving already sealed, meaning that the voter has to rip open the return envelope and reseal it. And they're worried that those ballots could potentially be rejected because they look like they've been tampered with. And in many cases,
Wow.
those issues can be resolved by contacting local election administrators, but that's something that is occasionally happening in states that are experiencing humid weather.
So, I mean, given some of these issues, at this point, is the best way to make sure your vote is counted is either to deliver it yourself or cast it in person?
I think that's really up to the individual voter. Every state has different rules and every state has different availability for how you can return a mail-in ballot. There are also different rules in every state about whether if you requested a mail-in ballot and you change your mind and you want to vote in person. We just did an explainer about that this week. So the problem is that we are a huge patchwork of election laws across this country. So it really depends on what the current law says in your state, and also what you're most comfortable with, given that we are in the midst of a pandemic.
Well, casting ballots in person has proven difficult in a number of places. One recent Electionland story looked at why Georgia has such long lines. Now, the piece notes that the average wait time after 7 p.m. was 51 minutes at polling places that were 90% or more non-white, but only 6 minutes at polling places that were 90% white. So why the discrepancy?
Well, that piece took a look at some historical issues that have been happening and date back to before the pandemic about how polling places are chosen and how the election system is funded in that state. And so essentially it boils down to where polling places have capacity, where they are actually being opened. And this has been a process that has been happening over the course of a number of years and is not just something that happened as a result of the pandemic, because one of the issues that many states are facing as a result of the pandemic is that some places that used to serve as voting centers no longer can. Places like nursing homes or senior centers, even schools, are sometimes no longer available. So administrators have had to really shift and find places that are adequate, that can accommodate a large number of people, and can really serve as a community hub for all of the voters in that particular location. So that story really took a look at issues that have been happening over a number of years and have led to a point that things have gotten even more critical because of all of these other closures happening as a result of the pandemic.
And Rachel, for people who are having issues, how can they submit information and help Electionland report on voting?
So we are accepting tips through a number of means. So you can text us, you can message us on Facebook, and we also have a simple web form you can fill out. So if you go to election.land, that's the website, election.land. You have all of the different options for getting in touch and telling us if you have experienced any problems casting your ballot.
All right. Well, Rachel Glickhouse, it's a lot, and it's very interesting to hear about the level of detail with some of these issues. Who would have thought humidity in some of these states would cause such problems? But it really is interesting, and it's important that people understand the challenges that folks are facing. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.